good, Italian Job?
Feeling good, Tommy boy. How you doing, brother?
I'm well, man. You and I just came off a good laugh, and I desperately
We
needed
did.
that.
We did.
The
Maybe it'll
things that
make
the
it.
PAX will never hear.
Oh man,
It's
sausage.
all
That's so
good.
funny.
Well, listen, let's dive into it. Today's going to be a fun one in the sense that we're going to cover a handful of things. Well, one thing that expands a handful of opportunity, meaning that today's focus is on branding. What's in the name? How do we take an idea to an AO, to a shovel flag, to a t-shirt? How do we even make t-shirts? Who do I reach out to if I don't have a lick of design talent in my mind? Do I do it by myself? I could go on and on and on. We're going to provide some connections, some ideas, some links. We'll tell some stories about how we got to what we experience as F3 and our naming. But before we dive into all of that, let's do our one up, one down for the week. And I'll let you start first. Tell me about your week.
All right. Well, I'll give you a one up. Today is my wife's birthday.
Congratulations on her
birthday. So we are going to make sure that we celebrate my wife today. And that's a good deal. It's a good thing. My wife, I don't know if your wife is the same as my wife. She doesn't get a birthday. She gets like a birth week, and which leads into a birth month. And we just celebrate. So we are celebrating that today and this weekend. So that's really cool. On the downside, we're starting to look at the upcoming holiday season, and we're starting to look at the finances. Things get tight. But I want to parlay that, money's tight type thing into, but that's not going to stop you from having a good holiday season. It's not going to stop me from having a good holiday season. It's not going to stop me from seeing my brothers in the gloom in the mornings, from finding that joy that's in my heart. So, money might be tight, but I'm not going to let it ruin the holiday season this year. So I'll leave it at that. One up, one down. But, positives on both ends. So what about you?
Yeah. I'll parlay your part of your down into my down is that I've been traveling a whole bunch for business and just kind of last minute squeezing in before the end of the year type stuff, which is good. That means my holidays will be freer. But did not get a chance to post like I was hoping. It was down in Colombia. Really have enjoyed getting to meet those guys, become tight with McNugget, and just really always look forward to those trips. Unfortunately, just did not pan out in the way that I had hoped because we were just so far away from where actual activities were and big full days, whatever. At the other side of that coin, right? I have a job, so I have nothing to complain about, but certainly do miss that magic that you were talking about. On the upside, one of our own here in Natville, Akron, is gearing up for the F3 Cadre Training Academy. And part of that training are weekly distance rucks underweight. So this past Sunday before I left town, the last thing I did, or Saturday into Sunday, last thing I did was a 12-miler with him and 4 other packs. Just had a great time. The group of us, ragtag kind of group, and all of us are coming off different weeks, different life experiences, whatever, but none of that matters in the gloom, right? So had a great time, and that carried me through the week, and certainly, hopefully, will carry me through the next 10 days before I land this plane. But it is all good.
Big shout out to Akron. I had the honor, privilege, and joy to be in White Platoon with Akron at Myrtle Beach, and that is a stand-up, solid man, high impact man. It makes me envious that he's in your home region because the guy is a stud. So big time T-claps and shout out to Akron. And I'm excited to hear he's part of the Cadre Academy that's upcoming next month. So very cool.
Yeah, super proud of him. If nothing else, he's one of those guys that just makes me a better person every time I'm around him. And if a week doesn't go by and I don't bring up his name in the house, even my daughter asks, what's going on with Akron? So he's a great guy.
Man for sure.
No doubt. So let's dive into branding real quick. It's funny. I went to school for marketing for a hot minute. Shout out to the ECU Pirates and Brevard Tornadoes. But I dug through our notes a little bit from, believe it or not, I still have my notebooks from college. Very quickly, if you were stepping into branding or marketing 101, research your target audience and your competitors. Well, we know who our target audience is. Open to all men. Pick your focus and your personality. I would dial that into that's kind of laid out for us in the language that we use. Choose a name. We'll dive into that in a minute. Write your slogan. That's already covered. We one up the slogan. We have a mission, which I love. The mission of F3 is to plant, grow, and serve small workout groups for men for the invigoration of male community leadership. One and done. Choose the look of your brand. That's already covered for us. I love it. Design your brand logo. That's done. We're going to talk about regional activity, and then apply your branding across your business. In this case, apply your branding and your theme and your motivation across your region. Do you think I missed anything in there?
Dude, you nailed it. That's I didn't realize you studied marketing in school. That was my minor at UNC Asheville. Go Bulldogs. So yeah, that was my minor. So I guess we're not professionals, but we kind of know what we're talking about, is what it sounds like.
I mean, I have a degree in it, so I hope I know a little bit, but
Good stuff.
Yeah. So this applies again to anybody. You might be a brand new region, just got planted last week, let's say. Hell, you might be getting planted as you're listening to this podcast, for all I know. You could be growing leaps and bounds. You could be seeing opportunities across your region to plant a new AO, or just like the nation itself, as well as Dallas, you could be celebrating 10 years of F3 and still looking for the next 43 feet of road. And if you want to dial in, how do you even make that happen visually? If you're looking to expand it in that arena, where do we go? Let's start with the AO itself. Let's say, whether you're starting brand new or you're existing, at some point or another, you're going to need to name a new AO. I know you've named several. Do you have any favorites you want to shout out and how you got there?
Yeah, I have some favorites. And when it comes to naming an AO, I like to keep it local and the flavor of that region or that area of the country. A lot of regions have a Thunderdome because it sounds awesome, but it may not be relevant to the area. So I try to name an AO based on its location. For instance, the original AO in Rock Hill, South Carolina, when I was Nantan, we named it the Patriot. And the reason we named it is 8 miles away from that AO location was where the movie The Patriot was filmed. So it had a significant historical significance because there were quite a few battles that were fought around this area. But also it had significance, economically to the region because the movie had been filmed in the area. So the Patriot is one of mine. We have another one that's called Man U because it's literally located next to the park that's called Manchester Meadows Park, where there are several soccer fields. So it's just for good marketing. You name it Man U, and then you say "Man Up" at Man U, or you can just use a name that just flows right off of it. I'm not a football fan. Football is not life for me, so I don't have a relevance or significance to a specific team. But it just makes perfect sense. And then another one that I was pretty proud of, being that Rock Hill, it makes sense that you would have an AO that has rock in the name. That's obvious. But we named an AO Petra because there's scripture in Matthew that says, "On this rock I will build my church." Well, it just so happened that the day we launched that AO just so happened to line up with the scripture and verse in Matthew. So it just made perfect sense that we would launch Petra on the day that the verse lines up with and say, "On this rock I will build my church, Petra, where we will build this region." And that AO still exists. It's still very well attended. So yeah, those three, the Patriot, Man U, and Petra are ones I've named quite a few. Those are the ones that top of mind just pop because their relevance and significance to the area.
Yeah, so there's lots of great ways to name an AO. I can rattle off 3 real quickly. Just simply location. We started a sandbag and ruck workout. We called it Hobble and Gobble because it took place and takes place right next to a K&W cafeteria. That's how I grew up referring to that restaurant. Regional history is great. Guilford is famous for the Battle of Guilford Courthouse. So our flagship, or mothership AO rather, is called Cornwallis's Nightmare, just because of the beating that Cornwallis took at that battle. Now, granted, the British won that fight. However, he was later as quoted by saying, "Another such victory would ruin the British army," to which Nathaniel Greene later replied, "We fight, we get beat, we rise, and we fight again." So I love that. Cool. Or applicable to the history that you're kind of going after. Why is what we're doing now? Why was it important then? Why will it be important in the future? A lot of guys have heard about F3 Wakanda out of Greensboro. You and I will get into that in a different episode of Stuff Worth Trying. But because of Wakanda, we grew the Inkwell which is a Thursday boot camp at a predominantly Black high school throughout the history of Greensboro. And Inkwell is a wonderful story because years ago, a lot of guys will have known of what Martha's Vineyard is up north off the Northeast coast. Even less guys, but maybe still a good group, will know Oak Bluff, which is a section of the beach there, and specifically North Beach was the beach that was assigned to the Black community in the before times, back when racism was really running rampant at the end of the 1800s. So we'll put these folks over here. We'll enjoy our beach. And, as people in power like to do when they get scared, is hang on to that power. They referred to it as the Inkwell because of the color of the skin of the Black beachgoers, and just this horrible name. Well, what has happened over the past 100 years is the name and that beach have become the go-to place for people and for vacationers. And they took that name and they owned the power of it. And so the Inkwell to me was this idea of men coming out into the gloom and owning the power that they have to change lives. And so I love the story of the Inkwell. And I think every hand went up when that was suggested and the story behind it was told. So again, just to recap too, right? Location, look around for your location, what's happening there. Ask guys to challenge themselves on the regional history. If nothing else, you're going to learn something new, even if the name doesn't get picked. And lastly, what is your goal? Why are you starting this AO?
Yeah. I forgot one that I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. I started a midweek workout pre-COVID that happened in Uptown Charlotte, and we launched right next to the Bank of America Stadium, and we called it The Vault. Right next, just like the bank vault. We are right here, and we are the treasure that everyone seeks. We have what everyone wants, and instead of closing the vault, our logo was of a vault opening. So come on in and get some, because we got it to give. So it really comes down to when you name something, you want to name it because everybody can name an AO just because it sounds really cool. And those are cool names, but when it has some significance behind it, or there's some skin in the game, that's the stuff that rides, that builds that legacy. So put some thought into the name of your AO or of your region, or of, we put a lot of work sometimes into the naming the guys. Let's put in some work in naming our AOs and our regions.
Yeah, we name the guys well, so they'll be inspired to come back. We name the AOs well to make sure we set the tone for what we're trying to get after. How have you seen, what timeline do you see different regions taking on to assign a name to an AO or to a region?
Well, a lot of times what we'll do is, and I've always done this, is kind of something for a couple of weeks, we're going to scout that AO, get a feel for that AO. And then when we go live, that's the chance that we're going to name it. When we let everybody know, hey, this Thursday at this new AO, at this Black Ops operation, this thing that we've got going on the side, show up and have some names ready. We're going to toss them out. We're going to name this AO. We're going to plant the shovel flag. Because what I've historically done is we have, like I said, we will scope the spot out, figure out if it's a great spot for it, and then we will name the AO, and then we put that name on the shovel flag. So a lot of times we just have blank shovel flags, and then once we have the name, somebody will build out that shovel flag. Most often it's the site queue or a guy in your region who's really good at shovel flags. We'll talk about shovel flags another day for another pod, but that's kind of the timeline. Scope it out, and then once you guys know this is the spot, let's name it. And then let everybody have
shovel flags are so punk rock. I love the punk rock mentality of shovel flags because it's not required at all. Yep. Nowhere in our bylaws does it say you have to have a shovel flag to be F3, but it is taking on its own identity. My favorite, I would say my rule of thumb, and this is just me personally, is 6 weeks. I've seen 6 weeks work really well because it does a couple things. It strips the identity away from any one guy. It may be so-and-so's idea to start this workout on this day at this time and this theme, weights only, running, whatever. But 6 weeks, it stops becoming his thing, even if subconsciously he's trying to hold on to it. 6 weeks also puts the work on the guys who are showing up to start knocking on doors in that community. For example, if your AO is in a brand new neighborhood in your community, you better not be guilt tripping guys from all over the neighborhood or from all over other neighborhoods to come to this one, because that's fandom, and that fandom is fleeting, and they're going to go back to I'm not going to drive past 6 AOs to get to yours all the time. I'll come see you, but let's be honest. And you're not giving F3 away if you're not knocking on the doors of the men in that neighborhood where you are now starting. So it kind of cuts through all of that. And then that 6 week, guys know to show up and be present. Look, you put in the work, bring a list, like literally bring a list, or put it down in your head and show up with your ideas and why. What is your why for naming this AO?
So Tommy Boy, now we've named an AO or a region. The next thing we want to do is we want to design a logo, or we want to have something that we can put on a t-shirt. Not every region puts together shirt orders for AO specific logos. Correct. Or builds AO specific logos. Some guys do, some regions do, but you want to have a logo for your region at least. And so now you got a name. Now what's the next step? How do you build a logo? What do you need to do to build a logo? What kind of tools are out there? Who can they talk to? Where can they go to see some of these logos? What kind of advice would you give for those who are building a logo?
Yeah, step one is don't overthink it, because you've already put in the work, right? As far as those 6 weeks of why are we here? What are we going to do here? What do we hope to achieve here? Let's talk about regions, right? Because regions, I think, is the bigger idea, and you could scale that down to an AO specifically. But go back to what you and I just talked about. What's historically significant in this area? What has happened here on such and such date that resonates across this region? How are we defined as a city? Those are questions that you should start asking yourself early on. I'm biased, certainly. I love the F3 Greensboro because it features not only the Greensboro 4, it features the battle cannons of Guilford County courthouse battle, and then it features basketball, being ACC tournament town, right? So those things are all represented in our logo. It's nothing over the top. But what takes it there, as far as visually, it's nothing over the top, but what takes it there is you look at it and you're like, all right, I know exactly what's going on in this region. So again, think about significance historically, think about geographic significance. These are the things that I usually put down on paper and would encourage guys to bring when it comes to these naming sessions.
Some of my favorite logos are ones that incorporate the geography of the area. I really love a simple logo that has like a mountain on it. When you think of F3 Boone or Salt Lake or Fort Collins, anywhere where there are mountains in the vicinity, to have that in your background, F3 Asheville, those are really sweet logos. Or if you're at the beach, having an ocean scene, maybe a pier, or Cape Fear has a battleship. I mean, these are things that just make sense. Down in Florida, there's a race coast. They've got a race car because that's where NASCAR started, was driving on the beach. You also have Space Coast that has a rocket ship. Things that make sense for your area and your region of the country. I think one of the best places to look for some of these logos to get ideas, there are 2 places I always go. I'll go to Twitter and just look at all the region logos. But the easiest place to go is to the Mud Gear store on f3nation.com and just see the active orders. And you can also go in there and look for orders that are no longer active, but you can look through all the logos and get some pretty sweet ideas. But I will tell you, every time you build a logo, the more colors and elements and things you add, it makes it more difficult to recreate, and it makes it more costly to build. So I would recommend bold, black shirt, white font, white logo, simple, because the more detail you give, the more convoluted those logos can get. So that's a good place to look, is go into the Mud Gear store and see what already exists out there. And even while you're at it, check out the clearance section and see, maybe buy a regional logo from another spot on clearance.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. Googling images is always great. You could spend a lot of time on Wikipedia, for example, learning about your city. And again, the worst thing that's going to happen is you'll learn something you didn't know. The best thing is you'll be inspired for more ideas. Other ideas as you start thinking about design, you might be saying, I'm not a design guy. How does this even help me? There's still tools out there where you can be inspired by to take your ideas and put them on paper and put them on a shirt. Canva, C-A-N-V as in Victor, A, C-A-N-V-A, Canva is a freeware program. It's a bit chintzy, but it is a place for ideas. We just talked about Google. I mean, at the end of the day, how do you go wrong with Google unless you're Googling Merkin on the office computer?
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Never.
Bad news bears. Don't do that.
Bad idea. Just compile ideas. Just build kind of an idea board. Do your research. I can't say that enough. If you're not doing your research, you're not really understanding the assignment, right? When kids come out of their room and they say, "Dad, can you help me with my project?" and I ask them, "Well, what's it on?" and they can't explain it to me. Back to your room. You figure out what it's on, and then I can help you. And also, don't rush it. Take your time with this thing. You've got plenty of time. At the end of the day, you can be called F3 Greensboro for as long as you want. You know, we call ourselves locally Natville after Nathaniel Green, but we're F3 Greensboro. You know, that design came way later. And it's not something that needs to be rushed. You're not being docked F3 points if your logo isn't submitted to so-and-so and such by blank date. And like you said, partnering with F3 Marketing, partnering with Mudgear, those guys are there not only to help clear obstacles, but to answer questions. Is this allowed? I think you had a list, right? Is that correct, of things that you need to be wary of when it comes to branding?
I do. And I'll walk through that real quick. When you're designing a logo, let's say, Tommy Boy, you and I don't have the expertise in designing a logo. We know we've got an idea. Here's what I'm thinking. Work with one of your local guys, one of your local regional guys who may have the skill set. Or there are many F3 guys across the nation who will design the logo on your region's behalf. And some of the guys charge a little bit of money. Some of the guys just ask for you to send them a shirt once the shirts are made. But when you reach out to the website, which is to the email address, marketing@f3nation.com, you can always reach out to that group. That's where you're going to submit your logo for design approval. So again, that's it's marketing@f3nation.com. You will build a logo. It can be in any format. You're going to send it to them, and they're going to take a look at it, and they're going to make sure that it meets the principles, meaning the logo can't have certain things on it. You want a logo that's not going to be offensive, where it's not going to have, they're not going to approve things that can be offensive to any group in our society. You don't want to have anything that could offend somebody. So that's something to keep in mind. But F3 Marketing exists, and the reason they exist is to make sure that the logo, which is the only thing that F3 Nation owns, is not being taken advantage of. So here are the things that are owned, so to speak, that have a trademark on them. The term F3, the phrase fitness, fellowship, and faith, the term F3 dads, the term Grow Ruck, the F3 logo represented with a circle and the F3 in military style font that's within the circle. And then the Grow Ruck logo that's represented with a tree and the Grow Ruck in military, the term Grow Ruck in military style font within. So when you design your logo, you're not going to want to include the words fitness, fellowship, and faith. You're not going to want to include the logo in your logo. And the reason is you're going to own your logo that you build out. The Correct. F3 logo is already owned and trademarked. So don't incorporate that into your design. That logo, the F3 logo, will go on the front of the shirt. And on the back of the shirt, it will have your specific logo on it. So when you submit your logo to marketing@f3nation.com, they're going to look at it. And if it's not approved, they're going to tell you why. They may say, hey, you included the words fitness, fellowship, and faith. Let's take that off the logo and we'll approve it. They will give you immediate feedback. But when you do get it approved, let's say that they love the logo, it's perfect, we're ready to roll with it. I will tell you, anything that is printed with the F3 logo or those terms I mentioned above has to go through the Mudgear store, because that's our only authorized group to build out and use the trademark logo. Now, if you want to use
as they are our official vendor, right? Like if we branch out from that while using owned things, that's breaking what I would say protocol.
Now, if you want to print your own logo on your own t-shirts with your local print shop, you by all means can do that, as long as it does not include the logo or does the F3 logo, the F3 trademarked items of Fitness Fellowship and Faith. So if you've got your regional logo, you own that logo. Go print it at the local print shop. But if you're going to incorporate the F3 or words Fitness Fellowship and Faith, you have to go through Mudgear. And so here's how it works. You create a logo, you submit it to marketing@f3nation.com. They approve that logo and they say, hey, we're ready to roll. We need the file in a certain format. It might be an EPS file. They will tell you exactly what they need, and then they will take care of it from there. They will put it in the order, and they will say, what kind of shirts do you want? This is where you pick out the color shirts. You might want red shirts. You might want blue shirts. You can choose the shirts you want. Being that we're going into the winter season, you might want sweatshirts or hoodies or jackets. They can build out whatever you want. If you only want singlets, if you only want, sleeveless shirts because you want to show off your guns for everybody, that's fine. They will set that order form up for you. They will put it all together on the Mudgear store, and then you promote the heck out of it. You send it out there. You're going to need a minimum of 12 shirts to make that order. I recommend every person buys their own, rather than one guy buying 20 shirts for the whole region, because then when those shirts come in, he's got to go and hand them all out. I've done that before. I've gone around with a trunk full of t-shirts. It's a nuisance. It might save a couple bucks on shipping to do it that way. Maybe just get a handful of guys together so that you hit the $50 minimum for free shipping. But utilize Mudgear. They have a contact form. You can see that on the website. If you have copyright questions, if you have questions about what can it look like, I don't know who I should use. Do you have any designers you recommend? Use the contact form. They will put you in contact with the answers that you need. And then, man, you're just rolling. You're printing those shirts. You're getting them delivered to the house. And now you're showing up in your badass black shirt with your awesome region or your AO logo, and you're rolling and moving forward.
Yeah, it's one-stop shop. I've used other guys trying to save money, so I thought, but you get a lesser quality. Mudgear has everything you could possibly need under their one roof. If you're thinking, well, where do I go to print flags? Mudgear can do that too. If you're printing business cards to hand out to guys or leave at a coffee shop for an unsuspecting victim to pick up and show up at an AO, that's different. But for gear and things like that, I can't say enough great things about Mudgear. Good. So here's the thing. Here's how we'll kind of wrap up. In recap, if you're thinking of growing, if you've grown, but you're wanting to add, if you are brand spanking new, go back to basics. Do not overthink this. Look at your history. Look at where you are. Look at why you are. Look at your what you're aiming to achieve. And when I say you, I don't mean you by yourself. Don't do this alone. Surround yourself with your SLT. Surround yourself with the guy who is also interested in a weights only or a running only workout. Do not do this alone. And then lastly, use your resources. Scour Google, dive into Wikipedia, pick up a book, an actual paper book, and look and see what ideas are out there. Pick up a brand magazine. Lord knows nobody's bought a magazine in Barnes and Nobles in 15 years. They just sit on those benches with their Starbies and they flip through them. Do that. And then lastly, again, use your resources. There are resources out there, but can't say enough about Mudgear because they take all the work off of you. They will lessen your load. They'll even do a ton of work for you when it comes to design and proofing. So don't worry about all that stuff. Do what you're there to do, which is to invigorate other men, to invigorate other men. Well,
so Tommy Boy, I've got a question for you. We've talked about, we've gone everywhere from get a name, get a logo, get some gear with all that cool stuff on it. But more importantly, here's my question. What do you have lined up for our guys this week on a stuff worth trying?
All right. So our challenge worth trying this week is talking back to basics, right? If you have given to the Give to Give campaign, I applaud you. And only you know what that feels like, right? Mm-hmm. So I want you to take that energy out to a COT in the next 7 days and share your why you give to give with the rest of the packs at that AO. There's something special about the fire inside of the heart of another man that is infectious and positively motivates another man to get after it. And maybe it's your words. Maybe somebody feels like they can't give or won't give or shouldn't give because of blank, but your why answers that for them. So let that be the fuel for their fire. I don't know if anybody, and if they haven't, they need to go into this week's F3 Nation newsletter and watch Big Hero 6 from Nairobi give his why. Man, I wanted to run through a brick wall after listening to that. So that is our challenge worth trying. If you have already given to the Give to Give campaign this year, share your why in a COT in the next 7 days.
And if anybody's looking for how do I give, go to f3nation.com. You will see a banner, Give to Give. You can click on that. Once you've made your submission, there's also an area that will check by your employer's name for an employee match. A lot of employers will match dollar for dollar over $100. So whatever it is that you put in there, it will do the searching for you, and it will log you into your company's portal to apply for the match. So it's free money. If you submit and you are interested in giving, maybe your company will match it, and look for F3 Nation at your company match and add and double up what you're already contributing. So Tommy boy, we have covered some good material today. It's always an honor. It is always a pleasure to spend some time with you. I look forward to this on a weekly basis. Be good this weekend. Live it up right. Enjoy some time with the M. Enjoy some time with the fellas in the gloom. Enjoy that shirt that you're wearing with what you got going on this weekend. Enjoy
yes, Chad
all those,
1000.
Enjoy all that fun stuff. I look forward to talking to you again next week, man.
Always, my friend. Happy birthday to your M. Love you, mean it. And I will see you soon.
See you soon, brother.